What is going on, guys? J.Yumeko here, and today we're back with some more Root Double Before Crime After Days. So, last time we left off, really the highlight point of that last episode was that we actually started getting our memories back just a little bit. So we ran down there with two of our other coworkers. At some point, we got split up. Obviously we know from the start of the game that we went to go try and rescue, Yuri. But the real big mystery right now is that we don't know what we did. We did something to Yuri. Even she herself has said, like, oh, you did something so horrible to me, and now all of a sudden you're trying to save me. So we don't know what that means. We don't know what we did, if we did anything at all. But we're going to find that out. Also, real quick, I want to mention this. YouTube removed one of my videos that I had posted probably like, I don't know, a long ass time ago now. But it was one of my most popular videos. I think it had almost 1,000 views or a little above 1,000 views. And it was one of my model kit videos, which if you don't know, that's what I originally started. Those were the original videos on this channel. And they cited it for hate speech. And they said I was spreading supremacism. And even when I appealed the video, they said that, oh no, well, they're not them. Their shitty ass fucking robotic system said that oh yeah, we reviewed it and it still violates our policies. No, it doesn't. I didn't say anything supremacist in that video. This section they cited was literally just me talking about how the detail on the model kit was really good. I'm assuming maybe it's because I had the song Erica playing in the background. But I only had that in the background because it was a German tank. It was a Mao's German tank. So YouTube is a piece of shit. It fucking sucks. And they've sucked for a long ass fucking time now. And then they do this shit, and then their robotic system continuously fails over and over again. I get punished for it, and then I have to turn around and sit there and watch 2 consecutive 30-second ads with no skip. I remember the days when there was like barely ads, and even the ads you did get they were spaced out throughout the video, and you could skip them, right? Like, it wasn't a big deal to get an ad. But then all of a sudden now they're money-hungry sons of bitches that quite literally promote straight up pornography oftentimes in their ad sections. And then they also, you can just throw money at them and you can literally be advertised a complete scam product. A product that is just going to take your money and then deliver you a completely shitty fake product. So that's the absolute state of YouTube. It's a piece of fucking junk, and I hate it. And the second that there is a legitimate alternative to it, which probably will never happen because they have an objective monopoly on video sharing platform of this scale, I will switch over to that. So, now that I got that out of the way, let's jump back into Root Double Before Crime After This Extended Edition. I forgot to do that at the beginning of this video. Load. Okay. Oh, wow. Protection suit. Let's do it. Let me lower my volume. Also, I upgraded to Windows 11. Finally. I didn't want to, but my computer was kind of begging to be updated. So I had to. But, well, yeah, I'm not complaining. Yet. The team took a quick look through Area 5 just to be safe, then moved on to the factory. The large, messy room was as still as a grave.
だがユーリ君がこちらに逃げてきている可能性もある。
それにひょっとしたらここに何か使えそうなものがあるかも。ああ、
未発見の AD がないとも限らないしな。
Just because they'd found a ton of AD didn't change the fact that they didn't have enough for everyone, and their time was still just as limited as always. We still need to be more careful to make sure we don't waste any time from this point onwards. Why does they spoke with that thought in mind?
よし。それじゃ広いから手分けして探そう。
That's right, yeah. So, we found a whole shit ton of AD, But the thing is, for our current group right now, with just, I believe, like, the 6 of us, I want to say, I believe we do actually have enough to last the rest of the time. But we are acting in assumption that we're eventually going to have the 3 high school students in our group, at which point we wouldn't have enough AD. Now, obviously, this is probably going to end up being a situation where, for some reason, the kids are immune, or maybe they have their own supply, or something like that. And I've theorized this before. So yeah.
俺はこっちの方を捜索する。おっさんは奥の方。先生は真ん中あたりを頼む。
ええ、任せて。
了解した。
The team nodded at each other and began searching every nook and cranny of the factory. They investigated for a while before Anna called out.
隊長さん、ちょっと来て。
Watase ran over to Anna.
これ。
Watase looked down at Anna's feet to find a lot of scorched vinyl lumps lying there. Each one was about the size of a person.
焼けて変形してしまっているようだが。
Watase picked up one of the lumps and looked it over. It was stiff and covered in soot, so it was extremely difficult to tell what it had originally been at first. But after examining it for a little while, Watase felt like he was starting to understand what it was.
これ、元は防護服だったんじゃないのか？
防護服って、放射線防護服？
そうだよ。ほら、この部分が腕で、こっちが足で、面体らしきものもついてる。
Maybe that's the next step, find protection suits. It seemed there was little to no doubt that the lumps were the remains of protection suits that burned up in the fire. It was the same kind of suit Cosme and the other rescue workers had worn, but the material felt slightly different. There were letters written on the suit's skin. Watase barely made them out. NBC.
NBC?
Just as Watase muttered this,
君たち、何をやっているのかね？
Ukida came running over to them.
ああ、いや、何か気になるものがあったからさ。
気になるものだと？
これだよ。ここで防護服の開発もやっていたんだな。
Ukida's face froze over when he heard that.
ああ、確かにそのようだが、なぜ君らはこそこそとそんなことを調べているんだね。
What?
今は AD や要救助者、それから脱出口を探す時間ではないのかね。
確かにそうね。ごめんなさい。
What do you mean? Yeah, I don't like Ukida. Like, we had a little bit of a moment when we were up in the like dealing with the water like sprinkler system, but before that, and then now after that, with him previously accusing us of like being like having done something to Yuri, which like, granted we did, but he kind of took it way too far. Excuse me. I don't really like him. And now all of a sudden it's like, oh, why are you looking over here so secretive? We're not, dude. She literally screamed out over to us to like come over. Like, damn, bro, chill. Ukida replied to Enna's apology with a low voice.
気になったからだって？君には前も言ったね。施設内を漁るのはやめてくれたまえ。
ちょっと待って。
Yeah, what the fuck?
なぜそんな怒るんだよ。
前に言った通り、第5、第6エリアは機密の塊だからさ。僕ら一般の研究員でさえ勝手に入ったら厳しく処罰されるほどのセキュリティが敷かれているんだ。
どうしてそこまで？
ここで研究されているものが莫大な富を生むからさ。例えば最新鋭の防護服の開発にいくらくらいかかっているかわかるかい？およそ15億円程度だ。
何？
この残骸の開発に15億円ですって？
ああ。もっとも君らシリウスが使っているのはもっと安い普及タイプだがね。もちろん AD の開発にはもっとかかっている。人の
I
命が動
slept
く。
funny and my fucking neck is killing me.
いい機会だからはっきり言おう。もし君たちが重要な機密を見てしまった場合、今後の身の安全は保証できないぞ。
Ukida's eyes slanted as he said that.
本気で言ってるのか、おっさん。
もちろんだ。僕だってこの施設に勤める前は、たかだか原子力研究所がそんな荒いことをするなんて思いもしなかったさ。だが実際、以前にも機密文書を盗んだ上で仕事を辞めた同僚がいたんだが、彼は1週間も経たないうちに行く。君たちまともな世界に生きる一般人が想像もできないような世界がこの世には存在するんだよ。 好奇心は猫を殺すとはよく言ったものだ。決して見てはいけないものがこの施設内にはたくさんあるのさ。わかったかい？僕が神経質になる理由が。
There was a silent intensity to Ukida's words. Watase was swallowed up by that intensity and found himself relying on instinct.
わかったよ。気をつけよう。
ええ。
それでは捜索を続けようか。
Watase nodded, all while feeling that there was something akin to a deep darkness somewhere in this facility. Hey man, I don't give a fuck. I'm getting out of here, bro. Secrets be damned. Area 6, Inner Ring B2. It had been nearly an hour since they last searched this place. The team opened up one of the nearby doors and went in. And were faced with a large laboratory. There were a lot of blind spots, meaning it'd be hard to tell right away if anyone happened to be collapsed behind one of them.
いないとは思うが、一応探そう。
ええ。
了解した。
The team began their search of the room. There were no sign. There was no hide nor hair of any survivors or any AD. Titch. Maybe I can find some information about how to escape from here instead. Just as this thought crossed Watase's mind, he heard Anna talking to herself deeper in the room.
これ何かしら？
何？
Watase ran over to Anna. She was pointing at a whiteboard. Written on it was the following. From the Cheer Rain to Altair and the Bridge of Birdwings. Did you guys manage to escape, or are you still here? I haven't found you after all my searching, so perhaps you're long gone. But I'd like to reunite with you as soon as possible if you are indeed still here. If you guys are the ones reading this, then answer the following question. Was Sirius able to escape from his cage on that night of the full moon?
なんだこれ。
Normally, one would expect to see, say, sentences concerning the contents of some discussion held during a meeting written on the board, but this didn't look like that at all.
誰かから誰かに当てた指針のようだけど。
指針？
ほら、私がさっき書いた置き手紙みたいな。
そうか。シリウスといえば俺たちレスキュー隊の名称だが、まさかこれって俺たちのことか。
そう考えると、この隔壁が閉鎖されたラボに閉じ込められたって状況は檻のようにも思えるわね。でも満月の夜というのは何かしら。今日は確か満月じゃないし、そもそもまだ夜ではないわよ。
なんだろうな。
It might as well have been complete gibberish to them. But as Watase looked over the sentences, a strange feeling welled up in him for some reason. It was by no means an unpleasant one. It was a warm and heart-rending emotion, mixed with nostalgia, relief, and sorrow.
どうしたの、隊長さん？
いや、よくわからないんだが。
Just then, Ukida called out to them from behind.
今度は何をやっているのかね？
ああ、先生が妙な文章を見つけたな。
浮田さん、意味わかる
Ukida glanced at the whiteboard, then sighed.
僕には意味がわからんが、それよりこんなことをしている暇はあるのかね？
いや、しかし気になるじゃないか。
そうよ。もしかしたら鳥羽さんか三宮さんが残した書き置きかもしれないのに。
書き置き？バカな。だとしたらどうしてこんなわけのわからない文章にするのかね？
じゃあ何なのよ。
僕に聞かれてもわかるわけがないだろう。というか、こんなくだらないことにいちいちとらわれるんじゃない。捜索がさっぱり進まないじゃないか。
Everything Ukida said from start to finish was harsh. Anna was clearly not happy about his attitude, but she said nothing. This is bad. The atmosphere's been totally strained for a while now, thanks to the old man. That said, yelling at him to shut up wasn't an option either. It'd just lead to more bickering like before. Thus, Watase spoke in the friendliest voice he could muster.
ま、これについてはおっさんの言う通りかもな。なあ、先生。
え？
この文章のことは頭に留め置いて、ひとまず捜索を続けるとしようぜ。
Anna looked even more peeved at Watase's dismissal, but she eventually just snorted.
わかったわよ。そうするわ。
I'm with you, Anna. I am 100% with you on anything and everything. You could say the most heinous shit and I would be with you. Watase breathed a sigh of relief when he heard that, but at the same time it finally hit him. Searching together with just two civilians was extremely difficult. No, I mustn't complain. I need to be more level-headed. I need to keep up the search while making sure those two don't get into fights. Watase mentally resolved himself and left the room with Anna and Ukida. Excuse me, Jesus Christ. The team finished up their search of B2 not 3 minutes later, but it had turned up fruitless as always.
次は地下1階に行きましょうか。
ああ、だがこの塔の非常階段は崩れちまってるんだ。
何？じゃあ君はさっきどうやって捜索したんだね。
崩れた階段の代わりにロープを使ったのさ。
It should still be
だが
there.
先生やおっさんが登るにはちょっと無理があるな。
He could carry one of them on his back, but it would take far too much time with two or for them. With what? But it might take too much time with two or for them to climb the rope individually. Oh, okay, I see. I just can't read.
他のエリアから回り込む？
いや、時間がもったいない。エレベーターシャフト内のはしごを使おう。
まあ何でもいい。それで行こうじゃないか。
ええ。
Wadase headed for the elevator hall after getting Anna and Ukida's approval. He then opened the elevator doors like last time and checked inside. The shaft was full with thick darkness.
ここを登っていくの？
ん？怖いなら残ってもいいんだがね。
Ukida, just shut the fuck up, man.
バカ言わないで。一緒に行くわよ。
いや、待て先生。一応俺が先に行って安全を確認しよう。先生たちは後から追ってきてくれればいい。
そう？それじゃあ気をつけてね。
Oh, I will. I've got you waiting for me. I won't die here. Wadase nodded and entered the shaft. He aimed for the top as he climbed his way up through the pitch-black darkness. He felt a bit nervous about the constant creaking the ladder was making. The ladder only got unsteadier the higher he climbed. Perhaps the fire that had been upstairs had hit the elevator shaft as well. This might be a bit hard on Teach. Wadase thought that as he closed in on B1. But then he heard voices coming from below. Oh? Wadase strained his ears. It seemed Anna and Ukida were talking downstairs. Oh, fuck, that's not good.
無論大王エリア勤務の職員としての知識はあるが、それが何だ。
とぼけないで。本当はもっと重要なことを知っているんじゃない？
何をだね。
決まってるじゃない。隔壁が開かない理由よ。
いやだからそれは放射能漏洩防止システムが。
本当に？それ以外の理由があるんじゃない？
You know what? Anna's got a point here. I mean, he's going on and on about how they've straight up fucking, like, made people disappear off the face of the earth for finding out their secrets down here. So maybe they shut it off either in hopes that everything would just be destroyed or because it could be a couple reasons. I mean, we could even go with the theory that maybe the monster down here, maybe that's why they shut it off. They didn't want whatever is roaming around here killing people to escape to the surface, right? So they're hoping that, oh, well, if we just shut everything off, we'll be able to figure something out, or we're hoping that it'll just die in the explosions and fires that are going off down there. That could very well be a reason. And Ukida's voices were growing passionate. It seemed yet another argument was erupting between them. Seriously? I took my eyes off them for one damn minute and they're at it again? Pairing those two up was the worst idea ever. Wadase tried to stop them from the shaft. But all he got in return was angry shouts from Enna. I seriously don't have time for this. Wadase tried to quickly climb down the ladder to stop them, but then he heard a thick sound at his feet. The ladder's stair had broken. Wadase danced in the darkness for a moment, feeling as though he were floating. Oh shit. All Wadase could do was flap his arms wildly. His hand then collided with something, another one of the ladder's stairs. He immediately grabbed onto it, but at nearly the exact same moment, Wadase's body hit the floor. He hit his back hard. The impact reached all the way up to his brain, quickly robbing him of his consciousness. Yeah, see what happens when you two fucking bicker like that? As he passed out, Wadase swore he could hear Enna shouting. God damn it. This is like the fucking 100th time that we've gone unconscious or passed out or banged our head. I mean, jeez, man.
さん、ねえ、しっかりして隊長さん。
Wadase awoke to the sound of someone calling his name. When he came to his senses, he noticed he was lying on the floor of the elevator hall.
よかった。目覚めたのね。
Anna stared at Watase's face with a look of worry.
先生。
Watase tried to sit up, only for a sharp pain to shoot through both his head and back.
まだ無理しない方がいいわ。脳震盪を起こしたんだから。
Watase nodded feebly and surveyed his surroundings.
ここは
第6エリアの内周と、さっきのエレベーターホールよ。はしごから落ちたことは覚えてる？
As he said that, he recalled that he'd grabbed onto the ladder before he'd smashed into the ground. It seemed that action had slowed his momentum down just enough to keep him from getting severely injured.
どのくらい気絶していたんだ？
ほんの数分よ。
そうか。おっさんは？
Ukita was nowhere to be seen. Anna answered with a bitter look on her face.
捜索を続けると言っていたから、ひとまずプロキオンを渡して先に行かせたわ。
一人でか？
そうよ。第1エリア方面へ行ったはず。
だったら俺は放っておいて、先生も行けばよかったのに。
そんなわけにはいかないわよ。
My girl.
浮田さんと二人きりになるのは。
I really don't like being all alone with Ukita. I'm guessing that this decision is probably going to be one where, depending on how you have it, it'll either be like, oh, well, Ukita's not such a bad guy, give him a chance. Or it could be, yeah, he's kind of a jerk. I think he is a jerk. I agree. He is a fucking jerk. And his face clouded over at that question.
あなたも分かってるでしょ。彼は少し危険だわ。リフトのところで死体を見てから雰囲気が変わったように思えるし。
それはきっとまだ気が動転してるんだよ。自分の職場で。
Yeah, see, I think it seems like it doesn't. It seems like the only way you're gonna make any decisions with this is if you either go the extreme or like the extreme of one or the other. I just feel like I've noticed that, or maybe I'm just not going down low enough there. I don't know. What do you mean by that? Yada yada yada. True, maybe it is strange. There we go.
抑えてくれよ。おっさんだってここまで一緒にやってきた仲間じゃないか。
仲間。
Anna locked eyes with Watase, lowering her voice.
あの人、本当に仲間と呼べるのかしら。
何？
隠し事が多すぎるような気がするわ。こんなこと言ったら怒られるかもしれないけど、どうも不信感が募ってしまって。ねえ隊長さん、あなた記憶喪失になる前にすでに浮田さんと出会っていると言っていたわね。
ああ、おっさんが言うからそうなんだろう。
何か覚えていることはない？
Watase searched through his memories, but
すまない。そのあたりの記憶はまだ戻ってないんだ。とにかく俺は彼からセキュリティカードを奪って第3エリアに閉じ込めたとのことだ。わかっ
Watase had done that to make sure that Ukita, who'd been panicking from the KSAT announcement, didn't do anything rash. Perhaps Ukita still held a grudge against him for that.
私も実はそこが妙だと思っていたのよ。むしろこうは考えられないかしら。災害発生時に不審な動きをしていた彼を隊長さんが見つけ、緊急処置として拘束した。
Watase's eyes widened at Anna's theory. I never considered that. But it was most certainly possible. If her theory is correct, then that means the truth was buried in darkness once I lost my memories after that. The old man then took the opportunity to play innocent and join up with us with the ultimate goal of escaping? Wadase quickly stopped his train of thought there.
いや、しかしそんなことは考えたくない。
え？
おっさんが事故発生当時に何かを企み、不審な動きをしていたとしても、俺が彼を拘束するために第三エリアに閉じ込めたなんて、そんなことはレスキュー隊の仕事じゃないだろう。
レスキュー隊の仕事じゃないって？
そうさ。レスキューってのは人の命を救うのが仕事だ。火災が起きてる施設内に意図的に人を閉じ込めるなんて、記憶を失っていてもそれくらいは分かってる。
Anna stared at Wadase's face for a moment, then let out an exasperated sigh.
隊長さん、お人よしすぎるわよ。
なんとでも言えばいいさ。
If Anna turns out to either be a baddie, I'm gonna crash. Or, yeah, bad guy, I'm gonna. Because she is a baddie. If she turns out to be a bad guy, I'm gonna crash out. If she turns out to die, I'm gonna crash out.
だが仮にだ。
If she turns out to be the bad guy and die, I'm gonna absolutely blow up.
俺はおっさんがピンチになったら助けるぜ。
シンプルね。それがあなたのレスキュー精神ってわけ？
ああ、先生には悪いが、人を疑うよりこっちの方が性分に合ってそうだ。先生もそろそろ他人を疑うのをやめた方がいいんじゃないか。このひどい状況下で何よりも大切なのはチームワークだと俺は思うぞ。
Anna grew silent for a moment after Wadase finished his plea. Then she soon spoke up in a defeated voice.
わかったわよ。ごめんなさい。ちょっと疑心暗鬼になりすぎて。
Hey, look at that. It all worked out in the end.
よし。それじゃ考えが改まったところで、このまま分断されっぱなしじゃまずい。おっさんを追いかけよう。
もう動けるの？
大丈夫。もう回復した。行こうぜ、先生。
ええ。っていうか、本当にタフね、あなた。
Yeah. Wadase and Anna ran off towards Area 1 to find Ukita. They ran the entire hallway, but he was nowhere to be found.
浮田さんはもう第2エリアに行ったみたいね。
This is for Anna, I guess. Interesting.
時間がもったいないわ。私たちも先に進みましょう。
That was a waste of time. Let's just move on. What did she just say? Okay, so we ran through the entire hallway. I guess he already went on to area 2. I'm assuming this will probably be a thing of either staying in area 1 or moving on to area 2. Let's stay. I'm curious. Wadase
い
disagreed.
や、一応俺たちも軽くこのエリアの捜索をしておこう。
浮田さんがここにいないということは、捜索は終わってるってことでしょ？
見落としがあるかもしれないじゃないか。
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I feel like we're moving on a little bit too quickly.
あなたがそう言うなら別にいいけど。
Once Anna reluctantly agreed, she and Wadase proceeded to search Area 1, but they didn't find him either on B1 or on B2.
ねえ、やっぱり早く先に進みましょうよ。ここにはもう何もないわ。
Bruh! Hell no! Hell fucking no! I'm going back. Fuck that shit. What the hell? Dang, I thought I was being smart there. I thought they were trying to pull some kind of like reverse psychology on me. But no, he just fucking wasn't there. Alright, Wadase was now directly opposite of Area 5, where he and the others had split up.
この辺りで副隊長さんたちのチームと合流しそうなものだけど。
いないな。
さっきみたいなトラブルがあっちでも起きたらどうしましょう？
なに、立花と森部のことなら大丈夫さ。ちょっとやそっとのトラブルに負ける二人じゃない。
確かにね。それじゃ先に私たちの手でこのエリアの捜索をしてしまいましょうか。
Wadase nodded and walked off with Anna. Only Kazumi and Jun had searched the place the first time they went through. This was also where their makeshift base was set up. It had been ages since anyone had last checked the area out. There's also enough room to believe that the survivors are constantly on the move. Wadase carried out his search with those thoughts in mind. But a nameplate labeling one of the rooms caught Wadase's eye.
この部屋は資料室？
This was indeed what the nameplate said.
あるいはこの部屋に脱出のヒントが。
あるかもしれないわね。入って。
Anna said that, then opened the door. It was a small room about 5 meters in width. The entire space was almost completely filled with steel bookshelf upon steel bookshelf. There's a switch attached to each shelf, meaning it was most likely a movable type of bookcase.
この部屋にも誰もいないみたいね。
ああ、そのようだな。
Once he'd confirmed that, Wadase's eyes turned to the bookshelf. A crammed line of books and essays were sitting there. An introduction to the informational field theory, author Miyoko Tenkawa. Elementary particles, information and consciousness, author Miyoko Tenkawa. ESP synchronization hypotheses, author Antoine Courbet, translator Miyoko Tenkawa. Cerebrum Labyrinth of Physiology, author Ryokin Kashiwagi. Unbinding from Pseudoscience to Future Prospects of Parapsychology, author Koki Sumida. Before Crime, After Days, author Chikage Sonomura. Particles, the Mind in the Brain, Shuya Eriguchi. Wadase looked at all their titles. I don't get them. Why was there a book that was the name of the game? Before Crime, After Days. Either that's just like a... That might just be a Easter egg, but at the same time, that is, at the very least, is going to clearly have something to do with the primary concept of the game. Wadase had no knowledge of science in its current state, so he hadn't the slightest clue what they contained. Now they thought about it, the two main themes researched at the facility were nuclear power and biology. Either way, all he knew was that there was a lot of biology-related books in there, but there was a familiar name amongst all the authors listed. Miyoko Tenkawa. If memory served him right, that was the name of Natsuhiko Tenkawa's mother, and when he saw those books, a strange anxiety welled up in Wadase's chest. Wadase was puzzled. Why would looking at books make him feel anxious? I don't know. I know this isn't the time to be doing this, but Wadase couldn't go against his feelings, so he took one of the books and flipped through it. An introduction to the informational field theory. In modern physics, all phenomena that shape the natural world can be explained with 4 fundamental forces. But there are phenomena such as the accelerating universe and so on that cannot be explained by these 4 fundamental forces alone. It has become clear from recent high-precision observation that the rate at which the universe expands accelerates with time. It is from that survey that the theory of an unknown energy known as dark energy, repulsive gravity, was born. But if dark energy supposedly exists, then what is it? Various conjectures have been conceived, but they are all merely speculation. Thus, I continue to look into that force from the perspective of an elementary particle physicist and formulated a hypothesis. Could it be information? If a 5th fundamental force does indeed exist, there's a high possibility that it is in fact information. I used a numerical formula to express the equivalence of information in volume and energy. Then after deriving its value, I discovered that said value completely matched up with the rate of universal expansion. In other words... Wadase had no clue what he was reading. 5th fundamental force? Information? Dark energy? The hell's all that? He still had no clue why he'd felt such intense anxiety from this book. Was it just my imagination? Wadase wondered that as he flipped through the pages and kept reading. The following conjecture is based off this theory. Even information itself can exist independently and can possibly interact, be conveyed, without the use of other forces as an intermediary. For example, since a human's thoughts are a type of information, they can communicate with others without the need for those thoughts to be converted into another medium, such as electrical signals. This is a somewhat extreme expression I'm using here, but this is the gist of the informational field hypothesis. The informational field is the place where information operates as the 5th fundamental force/energy. If we are to consider this by using the human brain as an example, the informational field generated from thought information may in fact be what we call the consciousness. It is still unclear as of this point as to what the process that creates a consciousness entails. All we do know is that a consciousness is generated inside the brain when countless memories equals fragments of information and electric signals running through the synapses interact. However, another conjecture can be formed when you think on the basis of this hypothesis. If information can exist independently, then that means a consciousness does not necessarily have to form in a brain. If a fixed amount of information gathers in one spot and interacts with each other, a consciousness can be born right then and there. Furthermore, if information can be controlled, then it should also be possible to artificially create a consciousness. Yeah, this isn't making any sense to me. Well, it's making sense to me. So, I mean, I said this earlier, but, I mean, the whole city of Rokume is supposed to be some kind of secret government city. That's what they said at the start of the game. And I had theorized that the telepathy that can be used is potentially a result of some of the experiments going on here. And I was even theorizing to the point that maybe Yuri is a result of those experiments. Maybe the 3 students are to some degree results of the experiment. So if they were clearly looking into basically the concept of being able to communicate thoughts without either verbally speaking them or physically communicating them, just purely from one mind to another, then there's that. That's obviously straight up telepathy. The whole creation of a consciousness, like, I mean, they were talking about consciousness without the form of a brain. That could also be the same concept, right? Like, hey, I'm able to basically transfer my consciousness / my thoughts, and or feelings, and I can communicate them to somebody else from a long distance, right? Or you could even see that as some kind of basically the equivalent to creating life, if you want to go the Frankenstein route of things. So very, very interesting. What kind of research does this Miyoko Tenkawa person do? She'd called herself an elementary particle physicist, but he got the impression this research had more to do with biology. But to create a consciousness, why would anyone want to do that? What does research involving creating a consciousness have to do with nuclear power and biology? He wasn't sure why, but he felt a faint ominous sensation. Despite that, he continued to read more of the book, and then gasped. In conclusion, the various theories laid out in the informational field hypothesis have yet to be proven, but this thesis had been reappraised in a form I never once expected. This is all due to a rapid yet drastic change that has recently swept society. That change is the manifestation of BC.
BC?
Come to think of it, Anna had mentioned it before. She said that it wasn't all that rare for there to be people who could use telepathy these days. Why does they continue to read? The ability known as BC has been widely acknowledged by society in the last few years. It can be said that this has resulted in mindsets towards the nature of information and ways of communication to undergo tremendous changes. We've also discovered countless people who possess this ability that we never would have conceived as feasible more than mere years ago. The abilities of BC can generally be classified into 2 groups. The first one is telepathy, the ability to directly send your voice to another's mind. The other is empathy, the ability to read the voice of another's mind. By describing these 2 abilities with these extremely coherent terms, we can explain them separately. When BC is used, the user's thought information is not converted into another medium. They communicate with their targets by sending that thought information directly into their target's brain by using elementary particles as an intermediary. This matches up with what I proposed in my informational field hypothesis. 2 completely unrelated fields of study, parapsychology and elementary particle physics, are connected by BC. Furthermore, while telepathy practitioners are still few, empathy practitioners are even rarer. But the true number of users is not what's important here. It's the fact that an ability such as empathy exists, and also the fact that the existence of information known as the voice of the mind can be observed by others despite previously being unknown to those other than the thinkers themselves. This is indeed the first and biggest paradigm shift of the 21st century. Hold up. So you have telepathy and empathy. Telepathy, self-explanatory. Empathy is what I'm getting interested in here. So the existence of information known as the voice of the mind can be observed by others despite previously being unknown to those other than the thinkers themselves. So I guess it's the difference of I can send messages to you via mind communication versus I can I can basically read your mind. So I guess it's a difference of I can talk to you with my mind versus I can read your mind. If I'm getting that correct. What? The words laid out before him were almost unbelievable. He'd already heard about the ability to directly send one's voice to another's mind. The problem was the other ability.
先生、 ここに書いてあることは本当か？
Anna took a look through the pages.
このエンパシーって能力は本当にあるのか？
So maybe we have empathy.
ええ、言っていなかったかしら。 BC は離れたところにいる人と意思を伝え合う能力と言ったわよね。相手に心の声を伝えるだけではなくて読み取ることもできるの。
Wadase looked at the bookshelf in shock to find that many of them had the phrase BC in the titles. Apparently it really was considered a completely normal thing. Though there were a few of them there were indeed people out there who could read others' minds. Just then, Wadase finally realized the truth behind his anxiety. I see. So I was scared of this empathy ability? He didn't know exactly why. Maybe he'd had a really frightening experience with it before he'd lost his memories. But even if that were the case, he didn't feel like there could possibly be anyone who was okay with having their minds read by someone else. No. What if, at this very moment, someone's reading my mind and you hear my fear of having my mind read? Wadase's body shook violently in face of that abrupt thought.
それに BC の使い手はなぜか子供に多く、大人で使える人は輪をかけて稀なんだ。
If we were to trust what Jun said, then that probably meant that none of the adults in the group were communicators. But what about the children? Could Natsuhiko read minds? Mashiro? Salyu? And what about Yuri? Wadase couldn't hold his question back.
先生、もう一つ聞きたい。あの子たちはエンパシーを使えるのか？
使えないわよ。鳥羽さんはテレパシーを自由自在に使えるけど、あとの2人は BC 自体苦手なはず。
Is that true?
で、それがどうかしたの？
Wadase didn't answer Anna's puzzled question and retreated back to his thoughts. Now that he thought about it, several suspicious events had occurred. Why had Yuri run away from the group? Why had Salya fled from the group back then? Why hadn't they found the 3 survivors yet? If those kids can read people's minds, and when you take into account that they've been running from us, then maybe one of us hates them and they know it. He didn't want to believe it, but it all added up. If that were the case, then who was the one who hated them? It wasn't Wadase at the very least. He knew that better than anyone. So it's one of the other 4. Once he thought that, every single one of them quickly seemed suspicious in his mind. His anxiety welled up like a balloon, and his heart started racing faster and faster. Doubt begot more doubt, but then it soon came full circle. No, wait. Maybe it's the other way around. What if they're the ones who hate us? Those kids could read people's minds. Those kids who could read people's minds were filled with malice and trying to back Wadase's group into a corner for some reason. Maybe it was just an absurd theory, but if it's true, then can we fight off guys like that? As soon as he thought that... Oh, more memories? A sudden headache gripped through Wadase's skull, causing him to groan. His consciousness started fading as he grew incredibly dizzy. This is bad. Anna gasped as she noticed a sudden shift in Watase's condition.
どうしたの？隊長さん。
いや、急に気分が。
大丈夫？
悪い。トイレに行ってくる。先生はここで待っててくれ。
ちょっと隊長さん。
Wadase rushed out of the reference room as he heard Anna call out to him. Wadase hurried into a nearby restroom once he'd left the reference room. I want to call that conference room so bad. Oh. Oh, damn. He turned the sink faucet on with all his might and washed his face with cold water. But his headache didn't get any better at all. Not another headache. Wait, could this be an effect of radiation damage? It was at that moment that he remembered something Kazumi and the others had told him. There's a possibility the tap water has been contaminated by radiation. You could get internal radiation exposure just from drinking it. Shit. He'd been washing his face with that stuff. Wadase frantically wiped his face to make sure none of the water got in his nose or mouth. But his head still hurt just as much as it did before, and soon he was assaulted with anxiety and fear that made him feel even worse. Wadase vomited into the sink. His stomach was empty, so all that came out were gastric juices. A heavy sense of fatigue weighed down his whole body. Damn it, I'm thinking about too much at once. Wadase gritted his teeth. Being trapped in this hellish environment was bad enough, But now strange incidents were happening one after another. People had either died or been killed, and on top of that, there might be monsters out there who can read people's minds. Watase was extremely confused. At that moment, countless disconnected images flashed through his mind as if they were conspiring with that confusion. No? I think, and this might be a stretch, but I mean, is it, well, really, maybe it's not so much of a stretch. Is it a stretch to say that Watase is maybe an empathy user? I mean, it's completely possible. I mean, because clearly it's going to play some kind of significant role in this. What was all that? It felt like there had been images he didn't recognize missing with that one of Yuri. And then Natsuhiko Tenkawa and his friends, the very same people they were looking for now, had been in them. Why? Have I seen them somewhere before? He didn't know. He couldn't tell if they were his own memories or not. But as Watase was driven to the brink of confusion by those mysterious images, it was the first time in ages that he'd heard that auditory hallucination. Watase was overcome with astonishment when he heard it. Wait, could this auditory hallucination be trying to control me? That suspicion expanded to immense proportions in one quick moment. No, what if someone's been controlling me this whole time? Then who's the me that I've thought was me up until this point? Watase looked at his face in the mirror as he was seized by that primitive fear. Reflected in there was the face of an unfamiliar man he didn't recall. Watase felt whatever had been keeping himself sane up until this point start to fall apart in that instant. Kazumi, Jun, Anna, and Ukita, adults who possibly held some sort of malice against the survivors. Yuri, Salyo, Natsuhiko, and Mashiro, children who possibly wielded mysterious power. And himself, a man with vague memories and a will that might not even be his own. Just as Watase started harboring doubts towards everyone, himself included. Oh? Watase blinked. It felt like someone else's face was in the mirror, but all he saw there was his own face. What was that? Who was that? Perhaps it was a type of audiovisual hallucination, or maybe a flashback. He wasn't sure, but when he saw that face, he felt his mysterious sense of nostalgia come over him. His heart calmed for some reason when he muttered that. Watase felt as though that hallucination had been admonishing him. That's right. I have to trust everyone, and myself. Watase turned off the still running faucet. Looks like I was jumping at shadows for a minute there. Watase finally realized that he'd regained his composure, and that his headache was now gone. By the time he left the bathroom, the doubts that had taken hold of him had completely vanished. Interesting. So unsurprisingly, there's somebody out there that we know. Maybe a sibling, a significant other, a family member. It could, and then obviously we had those flashbacks of Yuri and then of the three students. I mean, I don't think it really is such a big leap to say that we probably have met these kids before. Obviously we met Yuri before we lost our memory, so that's where that's coming from. But I do think that we probably knew the kids beforehand. His whole thing of like, oh, well then, you know, why did Yuri run away? Why did Salyu run away? I do think those are actually very valid questions. But yeah, I think it could definitely be a whole fucking slew of reasons. that we're not going to be able to really guess right now. Anyway, Watson quickly checked his watch when he left the bathroom. The time was exactly 1:16 p.m. It's right about time to take some more AD, huh? Watson admitted to himself with one of the ampules he had on him.
しかし隔壁が開くまであと約5時間か。
The road ahead was still long. To make things worse, he was so tired that his body felt like lead at this point. Now that he thought about it, Watase realized he'd only accumulated 4 hours worth of memory since he woke up. In other words, 5 hours was longer than the life Watase could remember so far. Watase walked down the hallway as he felt frustration towards the whole situation, then suddenly heard an unfamiliar voice. Oh. The voice appeared to be coming from just past the corner in the hallway up ahead. Then he heard yet another voice echoing. It appeared to be Anna's. Who's he talking to? He could tell from the voice that it probably wasn't Jun or Kazumi. Watase peeked around the corner to see what was going on. Isn't that? Only to find Salyu standing in front of Anna. Watase immediately held his breath and listened in on their conversation.
あなたの目的は何なの？
それはこっちのセリフ。エナこそなぜここにいるの？昨日は私たちの情報に耳を貸さなかったのに。
それはあの時も言ったでしょ。ここから先は大人の仕事だって。
We'll see. It probably is the thing of interfere or not interfere.
つまりこれがあなたの仕事。
What are they talking about? It didn't sound like Salyu was talking to Anna the way a student would to a teacher, and the details of their conversation felt private. Watase almost walked out into the open on instinct, but he stopped himself at the last moment. He remembered how Salyu had abruptly run away from him last time. For now, I should trust Teach and watch how things play out. Anna then resumed the conversation.
詳しい話は後よ。とにかく私と一緒に行きましょう。これ以上の単独行動は危険だわ。
いや、
どうして？
真白がエナは心を開いていないと言っていた。
鳥羽さんと一緒にいるの？あの子はどこに？
今はいない。
どういうこと？
Salyu didn't answer. Anna soon started to grow impatient.
心を開いていないことについては認めるわ。そうしなければならない事情があるのよ。でも私はあなたたちの味方よ。信じてくれないの？
Salyu paused for what felt like forever, then spoke as if she made up her mind.
エナ、夏彦に免じて一つだけ忠告してあげる。あの隊長という男には気をつけて。
Oh.
あの男は危険。
Just then,
おい、それはどういう意味だ？
Watase instinctively rushed out from behind the corner. Salyu turned herself aside and started running off at that exact same moment.
待ちなさい、三宮さん。
Are we the baddie? Anna immediately gave chase. But Salyu pushed her away a second later. Watase caught Anna before she hit the ground. Salyu took that opportunity to run to the connecting passageway that led to the outer ring, and disappeared behind the security gate.
待ってくれ。
Watase quickly picked up the pursuit, but then the security gate shut before his eyes. Frustrated, Anna punched the closed gate. Watase quickly took out his card and opened the gate again. But Salyu was already long gone by then. What the fuck? Watase and Anna ran into B2 of Area 2's outer ring in pursuit of Salyu, but she wasn't anywhere to be seen.
あの子、どこへ？
探そう。どこか近くの部屋に隠れている可能性が高い。
Watase and Anna nodded at each other, then searched the nearby rooms. Watase couldn't help but voice his thoughts as he kept on opening random doors.
しかし、あの子、俺が危険って。
そんなこと言ってたわね。隊長さん、さっきの話に心当たりは？
残念ながらない。
そう。でも、三宮さんと隊長さんの間に何かがあったのは確かなはずよ。
ああ、俺も同じことを考えていた。 だが俺はレスキュー隊員なんだぞ。それなのに彼女に何をしたって言うんだ。
私に聞かれてもわかるわけないでしょ。もしかすると三宮さんが何か誤解をしているのかもしれないけど。
Watase then remembered the wound in Salyu's arm as he said that. I wasn't the one who gave her that wound, was I? But he couldn't think of any reason why he'd ever do that. The pair finished their search of the floor as Watase pondered that. Salyu was still completely nowhere to be found.
他のエリアに逃げたのかしら。
先生、彼女を追いかけよう。彼女を見つけられれば直接いろいろ話も聞ける。
ええ。
Watase and Anna broke off into a run at the same time. Watase and Anna were currently in Area 2's outer ring. Taking into account the state of things, Salyu had to have either run to Area 1 or in the direction of Area 3, but they didn't know which way she'd gone.
仕方ないわ。ここは二手に分かれましょう。
I'm not splitting up. That's a terrible fucking idea. Huh. So there was a couple things there. For one, they were talking about, oh, they're, you know, after you didn't pay attention to that warning I gave you yesterday, I didn't expect to see you here. So they likely would have had to have some kind of idea that something was going to happen today. Maybe you could maybe say that they knew this was like this whole thing was going to happen with the reactor. At the very least, they knew something was going to happen, and they tried to warn Anna about it. From how they were talking, it seems the warning would have been like, "Hey, like this yada yada thing is going to happen. We need to do something about it." And then Anna would have responded, "No, like just leave it up to the adults from now on. Like let the adults take care of it." It could have even been something along the lines of, "Hey, something's gonna happen. Like let's do something." Did I already say that? I don't know. Anyways, let's do something. And she was like, "No, leave it to the adults." And so then they all end up here anyway. So we can kind of piece together that the reason Anna is here is... Oh, well, you know what? I'm trying to piece it all together because Anna's story as to why she's here is that she got a call like early in the morning to come to the facility. She was called by one of the workers here to come to the facility. She doesn't know why. And so she just ended up here. So it could be that the students were warning her like, "Hey, something's going to go down tomorrow. Like stay clear of the facility, right? Like don't go there, don't go near it." But then it's weird why they would say, "After you didn't heed our warning yesterday, I'm surprised to see you here." Because if that was the case, then by her not heeding the warning, it would be no surprise to see her here. I want to look through that again if we can. We might not be able to. Okay, here we go. Okay, so let's read back through this because I am very interested. Yada yada yada. Okay, what are you doing here in the first place? I could ask you the same. Why are you here, Anna? I didn't expect to see you here after you paid no heed to the information we gave you yesterday. I didn't expect to see you here after you paid no heed to the information we gave you yesterday. Okay, so that sentence would insinuate that we gave you information yesterday that would have prompted that if you had taken seriously would make sense why you're here. But you didn't take it seriously, so we're confused why you're here anyway. So then we move on. Anna says, didn't I tell you back then to leave the rest up to the adults? It's exactly as I said. And then Salyu says, so basically this is what you were up to. So Salyu and her gang... So it wasn't even a warning. It was specified as information. So they had given her information that would have meant all of them meeting up here. Anna seemed to have kind of brushed them off a little bit and said, just leave it up to the adults, or leave the rest up to the adults. Which to her insinuates, you students stay away, I'll take care of it myself, kind of thing. But to the students, it more translated as, I'm not taking your information seriously, like, leave it up to somebody else in general. So basically, this is what you were up to. So that's going to be kind of mocking, right? Like, oh, so this is what you were up to, right? This is what it means to leave it up to the adults, get trapped here. Another thing, it didn't sound like Sayu was talking to Anna the way a student would to a teacher. So we could even insinuate that there was they were in some kind of allegiance together even before all this happened. Let's see. I'll tell you the details later. Anyhow, why don't you come with us? It's too dangerous to act alone right now. So if anybody isn't letting us in on details, it's probably going to be Anna. She seems to know more about what's going on than what she's initially giving off to us. And she does, and again, like I said, this further reinforces the idea that she was in allegiance with the students beforehand. I refuse. Why? Mashiro said your heart was closed. I trust her judgment. So there's two people in the group with the guy. Sayu, Mashiro. Sayu and Mashiro. So Mashiro is saying that, no, your heart is closed. So whatever that means, we don't know what that means. Your heart being closed, we don't know what that means. But to the students, it means, nope, we can't, like, we're not going to work with you right now. Right? We're not going to come with you because your heart is closed. Wait, was Toba with you? Oh, wait, Miss Toba is with you. Where is she? She's not with me now. What do you mean? She goes silent. So that might mean that she's dead. I mean, if you were to read this, kind of point blank, that would insinuate that she's dead. Or at the very least, lost and in a potentially perilous situation. Let's see. What do you mean? She grew impatient. I admit I've been keeping my heart closed, yes. That said, I don't have a choice in the matter. However, I'm on your side. Can't you trust me on that? I admit I've been keeping my heart closed. That said, I don't have a choice in the matter. So clearly, keeping your heart closed is some kind of indication that you're not actually on their side. It's a signal of distrust and potential non-loyalty. We could potentially read into that as being something like maybe they can't communicate with her. Maybe when they say, "Oh, my heart is closed," that means like I'm not like letting you guys telepathically communicate with me, or I'm not able to be communicated with, kind of, I don't know, something like that. Then she says, I don't have a choice in the matter. Why doesn't she have a choice in the matter? What does she feel is going on that is forcing her to not be able to open her heart up, especially when she's clearly very desperate to get back with her students? Sayu pauses. I will warn you about one thing out of consideration for Natsuhiko. Be careful of that captain. He's a dangerous man. Natsuhiko. Natsuhiko is the other guy. So Natsuhiko is the dude that is running around. He's one of the students. So Salyu definitely seems like the tsundere type. It's probably one of those things where she's cold to everybody else but her like her group, right? I think that's pretty easy to insinuate here. So out of consideration for Natsuhiko, I'll warn you about one thing. So clearly at this point in time, her allegiance lies with Natsuhiko and Mashiro. She does not necessarily trust Anna. But she's willing to warn her about us being dangerous. Be careful of that quote-unquote captain. He's a dangerous man. Now, it's been my theory for a little while now that Natsuhiko is the one communicating with us telepathically. So when we were told to save Yuri just this second ago in the bathroom, when he was like, "Oh hey, you know what to say? Don't overthink this. It's not that deep, bro." Basically. I've been theorizing that that's Natsuhiko warning us or communicating with us. But again, it's like, I'll warn you about one thing out of consideration for Natsuhiko. That doesn't necessarily insinuate that this is a direct message coming from Natsuhiko. That's more of an insinuation that Natsuhiko cares for Enna. So maybe while Salyu doesn't think that Enna is still trustworthy, Natsuhiko still has trust in her. So she's basically saying, like, look, I don't fucking like you. I don't really trust you. But Natsuhiko does. So out of respect for his trust in you, I'm going to give you a warning about the captain guy. So this is kind of interesting because we've had now Yuri herself say, well, we've had a couple. This is 3 things now. We've had Salyu call us dangerous, and that Anna needs to be careful of us. We've had Yuri, who's scared of us, and who has told us before, like, oh, you did that horrible thing to me, now you're all of a sudden trying to save me. And then we've had Ukida even, I'm going to include him, who was like, oh yeah, you stole my key card, locked me in a room, and then ran off. All of this happened before we lost our memories, though. And the last thing that we saw happening to us before we lost our memories was basically just that we were running through the halls in fear. So whatever we did to them could have been done out of fear, right? We were just overcome for whatever reason with such an overwhelming sense of fear that we acted rashly, potentially even violently. Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see, obviously. But little breakdown there. Okay, so she's saying we have to split up. I don't want to split up. Thank you. That is a terrible idea. Just as Anna said that, she and Wadase heard a sound coming from far off. Wadase and Anna ran towards the source of the sound, Area 1. On their way, they heard yet another noise. The two of them followed the sound as quickly as they could. They ran through the connecting passageway and entered Area 1. Only to see red blood stains scattered here and there. It's fresh. Is it Salyu's blood? The blood trail continued all the way to the stairwell. Wadase and Anna ran over to the stairwell. The emergency staircase was collapsed as it had been earlier, leaving only a room full of debris. But Salyu wasn't there. And at the end of the scattered blood trail was a vinyl bag full of a red liquid. The bag's label read AB.
これは輸血用血液パック。
どうしてこんなものが。
Watase and Anna stood there in confusion, only for the fire door behind them to shut a second later. Taken aback with surprise, Watase tried to open the door, but he couldn't. It only budged a few millimeters, like something was propped against it.
くそ、閉じ込められた。
何これ。何かの罠。
罠だって。
Watase looked around for an exit as he tried to recover from the shock. He quickly spotted something that caught his eye immediately.
あれは
Something was lying in the corner of the stairwell, a fire extinguisher.
消火器。
隊長さん、消火器がどうかしたの？
いや、
He didn't know why, but when he saw it, alarm bells went off in his head.
ちょっと待ってくれ先生。
Watase gently walked over to the extinguisher. He picked it up and examined it.
何をやってるの？
わからんが、何か嫌な予感がする。
He turned it upside down and checked it out, only to find what appeared to be soldering marks on the bottom. Watase picked up a piece of debris. He pushed it against the soldering marks and tried to open up the extinguisher. He succeeded in removing the bottom of the extinguisher and found something strange inside. Watase gasped when he saw it. A cord stuck out of what appeared to be a digital clock, wrapped around several cylindrical objects. He could tell from a glance that it was a time bomb.
何これ？
消火器の中に爆弾が仕込まれてたのか。
Just as Watase finished voicing his shock, numbers appeared on the digital display. What the fuck? Well, we were guessing earlier that the explosions were potentially man-made, but Jesus Christ. A strange beeping sound began echoing through the stairwell.
数字が減ってる。
まずい、起動したらしい。
Watase knew for sure that the constant beeps coming from the timer were a countdown to their deaths. Was this the one who trapped... was this what the one who trapped us in here was after?
隊長さん、なんとか解体できないの？
解体？無茶言わないでくれ。俺にそんなスキルはない。
Throw it down the staircase!
それより早くここから逃げるんだ。
でも、逃げるって言ったって。
The staircase had crumbled and the fire door was shut. It was just as Anna said. There was no way out. The bomb's timer was ticking down by the second. And then, the time between the beeps gradually grew shorter and shorter as if to fuel Watase and Anna's fear.
くそ。
Watase slammed the door out of desperation.
開けやがれ、この野郎。
But he didn't budge an inch. Is this it? Is this where it ends? But just as Watase was about to give up,
隊長さん、どいて。
she's got a gat on her? What the fuck? Anna shouted that and took something out from under her clothes. That object, shining with a black luster, was none other than a pistol. Anna pulled the trigger as that wave of sheer disbelief hit Watase. The bullets successfully destroyed the door's hinges.
早く扉を蹴破って、早く。
What is happening? She's got a gat on it. She's up in the pipe. What the fuck? She's got the pole up. The Watase was still confused. He kicked the fire door with all his might. The door collapsed into the hallway, allowing the light on the other side to shine in.
開いた。
行きましょう。時間がないわ。
Okay. Watase and Anna rushed into the hallway without a moment's delay. They fled down the hallway as fast as they could, pursued by the sound of beepings from the room they'd escaped. It's gonna blow. Watase dove towards Anna as that realization hit him.
先生、伏せろ。
Watase threw himself into the hallway in order to shield her with his body. And then, the beeping finally stopped. Pow! What the fuck just happened? So somebody trapped us in there with a pipe bomb shoved into a fucking fire extinguisher. And then all of a sudden, Anna pulls out a fucking pole and blasts the door down? Well, I think it's pretty clear to fucking say now that we were right in our assumption that, like, she's one, not an ordinary teacher, and for two, has a lot more stuff going on than she is letting us know. Over 10 seconds had passed since the beeping had stopped. But the only sound that filled the block was Watase and Anna's panting. So it was a dud. It wasn't even real. The two of them got off the floor and timidly took a peek into the stairwell. However, no explosion had happened.
爆発しないどうして？
わからないが、どうやら助かったみたいだな。不発弾だったのか。
そうかもしれない。けど、なんだか妙だわ。
And not only that, we just had a weird suspicion. An unfounded suspicion about the fire
今
extinguisher.
まで起きたことと何かが違っていた気がする。
True, there had been several bizarre factors so far, like the sprinkler system being offline, or the passageway blocked by the electrical cable and puddle, or the cargo lift being broken. But unlike all of these, there had been a clear malice behind this incident. But that was a bit of a sloppy job, wasn't it? Watase looked at the kicked-down fire door. There was something that appeared to be a metal bar lying next to it. That must have been what was holding back the door. It felt very improvised on the spot for a trap. And on top of that, the bomb in question hadn't detonated. If the one who'd set the whole thing up really was trying to kill Watase and Anna, then they'd failed completely. Was there some reason they didn't spend much time on prepping it? Watase's thoughts were suddenly interrupted by sounds of footsteps approaching. Oh, finally. He turned around to find Jun running towards him.
隊長、それに椿山さんも。
なんだ、森。
なんだとは何さ。なんかバタンってすごい音が聞こえたから駆けつけてきたのに。
立花さんはどうしたの？どうして単独行動を？
Jun's face clouded over when Anna asked that.
副隊長は第3エリアの捜索中、爆発に巻き込まれて足を負傷しちゃった。
爆発だって。それで立花は大丈夫なのか？
今は監視ルームでカメラチェックしながら休んでるけど、すぐに復帰できると思う。
そうか。
Watase breathed a sigh of relief, but also felt anxiety welling up in him at the same time. Cosme had been injured just as Watase and Anna had almost fell victim to a trap. It stunk too much to be a coincidence. It felt like there was an invisible enemy that's attacking us. Though he was seized by fear, Watase and Jun synchronized their PDA's map to share their search results. Once they finished, they heard yet another pair of footsteps. They looked up to see Ukida running their way.
Ah, 皆さんお揃いか。
Ukida. Jun, by this line of thinking, Jun could very easily also be a culprit. But it's kind of suspicious that we almost just got fucking exploded with a pipe bomb. And now all of a sudden he's running over.
妙な音が聞こえたが、何があったのかね。
Jun and Ukida had both said more or less the exact same thing. Come to think of it. Watase looked at Anna's hands in surprise. Ukida and Jun did the same, then gasped.
椿山さん。
拳銃？それどうしたの？
これはその。
Anna's body froze, then she took a step back.
先生、さっきその銃懐から出したよな。
あ、どういうこと？
Where was she hiding it? This shit is skin fucking tight.
そうだよ。あんた教師じゃなかったの？
ちょっと待って、みんな誤解しているわ。この拳銃は私の持ち物なんかじゃないの。このラボで拾ったものよ。
拾った？どこで？
排出リフトのあった小部屋よ。あの部屋の隅に落ちていたの。
本当かね？
Alright. Do I believe that for a fucking second? Absolutely not. But do I trust that her intentions with it are good? Yes, I do. So I'm gonna give her... Well, I'm not really giving her the benefit of the doubt here. I absolutely fucking doubt her. I am going to just kind of play her side with this.
私たちが人工呼吸とかやってる間に鉄砲を見つけて拾ってたの？
だって本当なんだもの。
Anna cringed at Ukita and Jun's harsh glares. Watase thought over the whole situation.
まあいい。それは信じよ
そんな簡単に信じちゃうの？
I think I am, yeah.
う。証明できないんだからしょうがないだろ
Watase admonished Jun, then turned back to Anna.
う。でも先生、どうしてそれを今まで隠してたんだ？そっちの方が問題だ。
あの時は仕方なかったのよ。死体を見た直後で脱出口も立たれていて、自分の身は自分で守らなきゃってそう思ってしまったんだもの。
Now that she mentioned it, Anna had mentioned the killer several times right before that incident. She kept on insisting that a killer was still in the facility. Was that because she just found that gun, because she was preparing to protect herself? Anna continued as Watase pondered that.
その後は言うタイミングを逃してしまって、皆さん信じてもらえるかしら？
Anna said that in a feeble voice. Ukita and Jun replied with their voices laced in bitterness.
まあ信じる信じないは別として、銃がここにあるのは事実だよね。
それを知ってしまったからには君に拳銃を独占させておくわけにはいかんな。
だったらどうかな。とりあえず私が預かっとくってのは。
ここは年長者の僕が預かるのが筋じゃないかね。
Listen, she upped that. She knows how to use this gun, okay? Now that's another thing. That's another reason I don't believe that she just found it. What kind of middle-aged Japanese school teacher is going to find a gun and just know how to use it? Right? Like, don't get me wrong, guns aren't very complicated to figure out, but I mean, like, she would have at the very least had to know how to have checked it, check to make sure there's one in the chamber, if there was still ammo in it at all, if there, whether the safety was on and off, unless she's been walking around with it with the safety off.
何言ってるのよ、二人とも。私が銃を持ってるのも変だけど、あなたたちが持っているのも危険じゃない。
何？
Jun, Ukita, and Anna were all glaring at each other fiercely. Watase felt a shiver run down his spine when he saw that. Okay, we're gonna try something. We're gonna try and max these guys out again here. And see what happens. What are they saying? Are they planning to start fighting each other over the gun? It was likely that a fight really would break out if he didn't act soon. Watase frantically rose his voice.
待てお前ら、ちょっと待ってくれ。
何隊長？
君に保管させるのはごめんだよ。論外だ。
違う、そうじゃない。そんな危険なもの、壊すか捨てるかするべきだと言ってるんだ。
でも壊しちゃったら、万が一テロリストがどこかに潜んでいた時、誰も対抗できなくなるよ。
捨てるのもなしだね。捨ててもどうせ誰かが拾うさ。
それじゃあ、
The gears of Watase's mind rotated at high speed, and then produced him the best answer.
そうだ。こうしたらどうだ。まず重心から弾倉を外すんだ。そして弾丸もすべて抜く。すると弾のない重心、空の弾倉、弾丸のみの3つの品ができるだろ。そいつを3人で分けて保管するんだよ。
分けて保管？
Everyone's eyes widened at Watase's proposal. Watase may have sounded composed on the outside, but he was panicking on the inside. I don't know how to feel about that. I guess really right now it's just a question of, is that going to be the result either way? I'm curious. We're going to go back. I want to know if maybe this is something where if I didn't change this, if Anna would just keep the gun.
じゃあ、やはり先生に預かっていてもらおう。銃の扱いにも慣れてるようだし。
Yes, she does.
はあ？ばっかじゃない？だから信用できないんじゃん。
何をごちゃごちゃと。いいからその銃をこっちに渡すんだ。
And thus, the quarrel broke out. The four of them were soon shouting whatever they liked back and forth at each other. After having wasted more than enough time, Watase finally interrupted them.
ちょっと待ってくれみんな。
Somebody's gonna get shot? Okay, I'm just gonna do this because I'm really curious to see who gets shot.
じゃあどうしようっていうのさ。
待てお前ら。それ以上揉めるつもりなら。
Accidental shooting, there it is. Wadase then tried to snatch the pistol from Enna, but then Ukida intervened.
ダメだ。君に持たせるくらいなら
we're gonna have it accidentally shoot us.
ああ、椿山さん。それをこっちによこすんだ。
ちょっと、だからその銃は私が持つって言ってんじゃん。
やめなさい、二人とも。
Ukida and Jun reached for Enna's pistol. The three of them began fighting over the gun.
やめろ。みんなやめるんだ。
Wadase grew impatient and tried to tear his three companions, now practically wrestling each other for the gun, off each other. Let me save here real quick. Well, actually, you know what I can do, and what I probably should do would be better. Here we go. We gotta go back further. Here we go. Okay, we're gonna go here. Then we're gonna save. Alright, and then we can... And then boom, gun goes off. Wadase heard a dry sound followed by what felt like someone punching him straight in the heart. He looked down and saw a small hole had been bored in the dead center of his chest. When he said that, a gurgling sound echoed from his throat. Something welled up and clogged his trachea. It hurt. Wadase coughed it up. It was blood. Why? Just then, he felt a heat slowly but steadily spread out around his lungs. He was then assaulted with scorching pain a second later. Wadase groaned and grabbed his chest. His palm was soaked with warm, dark red blood. Wadase looked closer to find that all three of their hands were wrapped around the gun, and that muzzle was pointed straight at him for some reason. Wadase vomited blood again. He felt strength leaving the core of his body a moment later. He fell to his knees. His body then lurched forward. When his cheek came into contact with the cold floor, a chill rapidly spread throughout his entire body. Wadase's energy grew fainter with each time he vomited blood. Jun was desperately shouting something right above him, and was doing the same, but their words merely sounded like white noise ringing in Wadase's ears. Just then, the light suddenly faded from his eyes. His consciousness sank into darkness, and then, as Wadase lay there, not knowing if he'd been shot by accident or on purpose, his heart stopped. Damn. Goddamn. Accidental fucking shooting. That is crazy. But I will say this. Maybe it was on purpose, right? Maybe the gun ended up pointed towards us for a reason. I'm gonna be straight here. I think Enna is honestly cleared in my book. I don't think she's a threat. Ukida is kind of insanely fucking suspicious right now in my head. But you know, he just happens to. I mean, like, he runs off alone, you know, to quote unquote search the area, which would have been plenty of time to set up the bomb thing, or at the very least, him not being around. Maybe he saw us with the girl and was like, ooh, that's a good way, like, I can lure them by pretending to be her, plant the bomb, but then boom, bomb doesn't go off, so he runs back over, and he's like, oh, guys, I heard a lounge, an ominous noise, what was that? Right? Oh, let me do this first. Okay, we trust everybody, yay! Alright, and then we can just skip from there. Oops, my bad. My bad. Okay, you're splitting up. Everyone's eyes widened at the proposal. He was scared and yada yada. This gun just had to show up when everyone was already unstable as it was. It's too dangerous to keep around. I've got to resolve this whole thing peacefully. Wadase kept speaking in the gentlest voice that he could in order to hide his fears. That's right, then an extremely rare chance when a terrorist or something does show up, we can agree to put the gun back together to defend ourselves, right? Then Jun says, yeah, that's a good point.
逆にテロリストが現れなかった時は全員平等に無力だ。みんな
でも
納得してくれよ先生。俺は早いとここんな馬鹿げたことは終わらせたいんだ。
Silence reigned over the group for a while. Anna let out an exasperated sigh.
わかったわ。隊長
Oops, my bad. Then took the magazine out of the gun. She then awkwardly took the bullets out of the magazine in the gun's chamber. There were 11 of them in total.
これでいいの？
ああ、問題ないだろ
しかし誰が何を持つのかね。
どうでもいいっちゃいいが、そうだな。おっさんが重心、先生が弾倉、森部が弾丸でいいんじゃないか。
隊長は？
俺はいいよ。言い出しっぺは何も持たない方がいい。
なるほどね。ならばひとまず安心か。
じゃあ私も構わないよ。
私も同意するわ。それじゃ。
Anna then gave Ukita the gun, then the bullets to June.
よし。これで問題は解決だな。
そうだね。バッチリだね。
うん。ほっとしたよ。
ええ。
The three of them the three of them seemed placated for the time being. But Watase was thinking about something completely different. Why did the gun already have bullets in it when Teach found it? If the gun had belonged to the terrorist Jin mentioned, then why was it lying by the lift? If it had been empty, then it would have made more sense. That would have meant the terrorists had probably discarded it on purpose. But then who would ever get rid of a loaded gun? And that would mean the owner hadn't gotten rid of it, but rather dropped it. Or maybe they left it there. Was it in order to give it to us? The gun was now split up into 3 parts. Watase wondered if this has all been a trap for someone to set up to drive a rift between the group. But everything was stable for the time being. Yeah, or if it just was straight up Teach's gun to begin with. Like we said, in the route where we get fucking shot in the heart, Anna clearly knows her way around a gun. Right? Enough so to know that it's loaded, to know that there's one in the chamber, and if the safety was on, to be able to turn it off. I mean, or she was just running around with a loaded gun off safety. Maybe she was. Anyways. Now the group had to pull themselves together and continue with the search, whether they liked it or not. Watase addressed the others with that thought in mind.
さて、なんだかんだで、立花以外は全員揃っちまったな。俺たちの組は第6エリアからぐるっと回ってここまで来た。森部たちの組は何か見つけられたか？
いや、ゆうりちゃんも誰もいなかったし、AD も見つからなかったよ。
Like always, their search had yielded nothing.
そうか。何か気になったこととかはあるか？
Watase said that as a way to basically say, did anyone spot Salyu? But then June gave a surprising answer.
あ、そういえば細かいことだけど、なんか鼻の匂い、ぱったりしなくなったね。
Watase was totally confused by her comment.
鼻の匂いって？
いや、ほら、施設内に時々漂ってたじゃん。嗅いだことない？
そんなのあったっけ？
Watase then glanced at Ukita and Anna.
ああ、そういえばそんな匂いしてたね。
え？どうかしら。嗅いでない気がするけど。
Two contradicting statements. It just didn't make sense to Watase. The 4 of them, plus Kazumi and Yuri, had traveled to the entire facility together, yet Watase and Anna didn't smell anything while June and Ukita did.
なんだそれ？何の匂いなんだ？
いや、ほんと細かいことだから、そんな引っ張らなくていいよ。
Maybe it's a side effect of the radiation or something?
それより隊長たちは？
Because, I mean, clearly her having mentioned it is gonna, again, it's one of those things where it's this little minor detail, but then it's gonna come back and, I guarantee you, this conversation is gonna come back as a flashback at some point later on. Watase said that and changed his train of thought.
実は俺と先生はさっきサリを見かけたんだが、また逃げられてしまったんだ。
また？なんで？
わからん。
Sally's words crossed his mind for a moment. Be careful of that captain, he's a dangerous man. But Anna didn't bring that up, perhaps out of consideration for Watase.
逃げた理由はわからないけど、見る限り元気そうだったわよ。AD はちゃんと投与してるんだと思うわ。
ああ、それは不幸中の幸いだね。
うん、それだけが心配だったからな。
Everyone nodded at Ukita's comment.
とはいえ、彼女が AD を十分な数持っているとは限らん。 彼女が逃げたのはおそらく第6エリア方面だ。このまま4人で捜索しよう。
I would rather we circle back around to Tachibana because I'm kind of worried about her. Like come on, we literally just got lured into a room with a bomb in it and then locked in that room. And we're just not going to talk about that? We're not going to talk about the fact that we pretty much guaranteeably now know that somebody is running around here trying to kill us?
立花さんはどうするの？
回復したら脳科学実験室に戻るって言ってたよ。
ならちょうどいいな。第6エリアなら脳科学実験室のすぐ近くだし。
では捜索を続けるとするかね。
それじゃ行きましょう。
The group then started to walk off. Alright, I guess we're just going to leave that alone for the time being. Anna was walking in front of the others. She was fiddling around with her PDA, probably to check her map. Wadase walked up to her and whispered into her ear.
Sensei.
Bruh, that was not a whisper. Anna turned around in surprise. She put away her PDA and spoke in a sharp voice.
いきなり背後に立たないで、驚くじゃない。
ああ、すまない。それよりいいのか先生。サリュが言っていたことを森部たちに伝えなくて。
バカね。いいのよ、伝えなくて。話がややこしくなるだけでしょ。同じ理由でさっきの爆弾のことも言うべきじゃないわ。ただでも私の拳銃のせいでみんな先立ってしまったみたいだから。
そうか。
でもね、隊長さん、あの爆弾のことも三宮さんのことも私たちは常に頭に入れておかなきゃダメよ。三宮さんが逃げたのにはきっと私たちの知らない理由がある。爆弾を仕掛けた人物も確かに存在する。気を抜いたら重要なことを見落としてしまうかもしれないわ。命に関わるようなことをね。
And was speaking with a type of intensity that she'd never used before. Oh, I'm with you. You don't have to fucking convince me of that. I'm absolutely with you, Anna. Anna so far has been not only my favorite character, but just, I mean, like, I feel like in many ways she's thinking the exact kind of way that I'm thinking, right? So, I mean, who knows? Maybe if we had gone with, like, Jun instead, then maybe, like, I imagine, excuse me, we would have gotten, like, a completely different thing going on. But I'm glad we went with Anna because a lot of stuff has happened that's got the gears turning. A silent edge different from all her backtalk and hysteric shouting could be felt from her.
先生、あんた何を？
周囲のあらゆるものを疑ってかかりなさいということよ。周りの人もこの施設のことも、場合によっては自分自身の見聞きしたものも。
わかった。胸に留めておこう。
素直ね、隊長さん。そういう生徒の
バビー。
俺はあんたの生徒じゃないが。
でも記憶のないあなたよりは今のところ人生経験がずっと多いはず。偉そうに聞こえるかもしれないけど、先達の意見だと思って受け止めておいて。
The group arrived at Area 6 while they were talking. Wadase began handing out orders once they arrived at the factory.
チームを組み直そう。森部は先生と組んで、おっさんは俺と組んで、それぞれ捜索をしよう。それで捜索が終わったら、一度脳科学実験室に戻ろ
了解。じゃあ私らはファクトリーを担当するね。
わかったわ。
まあよかろう。
それじゃみんな気をつけてな。
With those words, Wadase then parted ways with Enna's team. Area 6 Inner Ring B2. Wadase and Ukita were searching the area, but they couldn't find
いない
anything.
な。
仕方ない。地下1階に。
Oops, my bad. The fucking chapter is called Test Subject.
あ、
Or the segment, I guess. They headed for the emergency staircase. The staircase in that dim stairwell had collapsed, but the rope Wadase used to climb up earlier was still right there when he left it.
これは上の階に行くにはこのロープを登っていかねばならないということかね。
ああ、おっさん、登れるか？
とても無理だ。登れる自信が全くない。
仕方ないな。 じゃあ俺が背負って。
But Watase realized something before he finished speaking. He was feeling quite tired. Could he really climb up the rope with Ukida on his back in this shape? It'd be just like what happened before. If I fall with the old man on my back, the both of us are going to get hurt really badly.
いや、おっさんを背負って登るってのはやめた方が無難そうだ。
そうか。ではどうするかね。
ここは俺一人で行く。おっさんはファクトリーに行って森部たちの捜索を手伝ってきてくれ。
Yeah, leave the guy who's the most prone to fucking accidents that knock him out alone.
了解だ。では後ほどファクトリーでお茶を。
あ、おっさんも気をつけてな。
Ukida nodded, then left the stairwell.
さて。
Watase promptly climbed the rope to the upper floor. Area 6 entering B1. Watase began searching the block by himself. But he didn't find Yuri or any of the other survivors in the rooms. Time was passing by, and he still hadn't secured any more AD.
苦労して登ったのに。
He figured he should go to the factory and meet up with Ukida and the others. But just as he thought that, the PC monitor in the room suddenly caught Watase's eye. He hadn't noticed it the last time he'd been there. The monitor was still on. It appeared the PC was frozen. On screen was what appeared to be a text file that someone had been editing. Test subject and IGF2R gene type. Subject A, hereditary IGF2R gene abnormality, type S, deceased. Subject N, hereditary IGF2R gene abnormality, type S. Subject Y, IGF2R gene type 4. Showed no signs of genetic mutation via WX particles / discarded. Subject Y2, acquired IGF2R gene abnormality type S. Natural IGF2R gene abnormality type C. Y's discarding. No precedent regarding releases, expected problems, memory recovery, etc. Expected problems of memory recovery. Interesting. Observation targets, yada yada yada. Okay. Special observation target NA, hereditary IGF2R gene abnormality type S. Target NA2, acquired gene abnormality, natural gene abnormality type C. Special observation target YU. Special observation target KA, hereditary, blah, blah, blah. Observation target MA, type D, blah, blah, blah. MA, level 5, consider a radiation test. NA, subject N, April 7th, 2021. Subject Y, YU, September 10th, 2030. Subject YU. Could YU be short for Yuri? Could NA be short for Natsuhiko? You never know. Oh. Nothing he saw on that screen meant anything to Watase. And yet, he felt a mysterious chill run through him the moment he saw all those entries for some reason. At that exact moment, he muttered that. Strange images flashed through Watase's brain. What the fuck? He didn't recognize any of those images. Perhaps they were remnants of his memories of the past, but they were accompanied by intense fear and unpleasant feelings that assaulted him. He didn't know why, but just being there was terrifying and made him disgusted enough to throw up. Watase left the room as if he were running away from it. I felt this before. He headed for the stairwell as he pondered when that was. As he descended the rope, he slowly began to realize it. It was fairly recently, wasn't it? No, a bit earlier than that. He searched for the truth behind his fear, and then he finally remembered just as he descended the rope. It was when he'd entered the contaminated zone to look for Yuri after she'd run off. He remembered her saying that. That's right. Now that I think about it, Yuri said something strange back then. He felt the same strange sense of dread back then for some reason. Why had he forgotten about it until now? Shocked, Watase watched as the Yuri in his memory spoke.
本当に忘れてしまったんですか。私はもう少しで死んでしまうところでした。火の中に置き去りにされて本当に。
ユーリ、何を言っているんだ。
あなたにわからないんだったら私にもわかりません。私にはもう何もわからないんです。だからお願いです、隊長さん。教えてください、あなたの心を。
Yuri said that and turned her palm towards Watase. A strange image spread out before him. That sight overlapped with Yuri. That was right. Yuri had indeed said all that. He'd completely forgotten about that encounter with her, even though it had only happened about an hour ago.
なんで俺は。
He thought about it and suddenly gasped after a few seconds. Could it be that my memory impairment isn't actually healing with time, but only getting worse instead? Watase shuddered at the thought. But that wasn't the only thing that horrified him. There was also the fact Watase had felt a clear fear for Yuri in that moment he just recovered. Why would I ever be scared of Yuri? Just then, even more incomprehensible words passed through Watase's brain as if to only confuse him further. The the test subjects are dangerous. The test subjects are dangerous. Oh, fuck. What the hell was that? What the hell were those words? I don't know them. I've never heard those words before. Watase drowned out those words along with the unpleasant feelings he felt. Now fearing the darkness and seeking light, he opened the door to the stairwell. Oh? When the faint light shone in from the outside, Watase felt a horrible shiver down his spine. He got the feeling that in the shadow of the debris of the emergency staircase, a blind spot that he hadn't paid attention to when climbing, something was hiding.
誰だ。
His heartbeat skyrocketed.
誰だ。
It appeared to be lying on the floor. Watase timidly peeked behind the shadow of the debris and found himself face to face with an unbelievable sight. I knew it.
そんな。
Watase's voice sounded empty. A small body lying on the ground. Eyes that had lost all light. Watase saw all of that.
ユーリ。
She didn't respond even after he'd called her name. Her body didn't twitch. A single streak of dark red blood adorned her pale face. That body had long since gone dry. Watase ran over to her. All the fear he'd been feeling a short time ago vanished in an instant.
ユーリ。ユーリ。
He sat Yuri up as he shouted her name, but her head dangled feebly. She wasn't breathing. Her body had gone cold. That was, without a doubt, Yuri's corpse.
バカな。どうしてこんなことに。
There was no one who can answer that question. Watase instinctively held Yuri's ice-cold body close to his chest, and at that moment, memories of her passed through his head.
止まるな。彼女を助けろ。
He'd heard that voice in his head when he'd first seen her. It was that moment that Watase had decided to do everything he could to protect her.
それで、そっちのお嬢ちゃんの名前は？
But she was wary of him at first, preventing them from reaching a mutual understanding. Yet despite that, she started opening up her heart to him little by little. Watase acted all in accordance with his desire to keep her safe.
隊長さんはいつも私を気にかけてくれているみたいですけど、どうしてなんですか？
初めて会った時から
思議なくらいお前を助けたいって気持ちが強くあったんだよ。
Those had been Watase's honest feelings. Thus, when the factory's ceiling collapsed, Watase acted without a moment's hesitation.
隊長さん、
ユーリ、安心しろ。絶対にお前を助けてやるからな。
He kept trying to protect her no matter what was thrown his way. He tried to escape the facility so he could get her out to safety. But she'd run away. Then Watase had let her out of his sight because of some incomprehensible fear he'd felt for her. And now he'd finally found her again. Only to discover that the Yuri he'd last seen was gone forever. Why? Just when she was starting finally to open up to me. Fierce regret raged within him. Sorrow then filled his heart. The sound of a watch's hands ticking filled the otherwise silent room. And thus, before she could ever tell Watase anything about what she'd meant back then, the source of his fear for her, and what she'd been feeling about him the whole time, Yuri had fallen into eternal silence. Well, goddamn. Oh. What the fuck? Watase was in a daze for a while. He had no clue how long he'd been like that. Soon enough,
おいお前しっかりしろ。いつまで呆然としてるんだ。早くみんなのところに行け。
Watase finally came back to his senses after hearing the now familiar auditory hallucination. He realized he'd been strolling like a zombie through the inner ring's hallway without even being aware of it. He turned around and saw the door to the stairwell behind him. That's right. I have to tell everyone what happened, no matter how painful they may be. Watase mustered his nearly torn heart and headed for the factory. When he got there, he found Jun, Anna, and Ukida.
あ、隊長。
どうしたの？そんな青白い顔して。
Everyone ran up to him. Ukida looked at his watch and spoke.
ずいぶん時間がかかったな。何かあったのかね。
Watase answered in a shaky voice.
みんな落ち着いて聞いてくれ。ユーリが死んでる。
何？
Everyone's eyes widened.
バカな。彼女が死んでるだと？
事故？他殺？
わからん。だが本当だ。あの子の死体を
どこで見つけたの？
来てくれ。こっちだ。
Watase took the others with him and headed back for the stairwell in the inner ring.
ここだ。
Watase stopped in front of the stairwell. His companions all gulped.
ここにユリさんが。
開けるぞ。
Watase paused as he felt cold sweat roll down his back, and then opened the door. She's gonna be gone, isn't she? But there was nothing there. Nothing but the wreckage of the collapsed staircase.
どこに死体があるというのかね。
Ukida and the others looked puzzled. By the time Watase could speak again, his voice was leaden with disbelief.
そんなバカな。
Watase searched the cramped stairwell, but he couldn't find the body no matter how hard he looked.
死体がなくなってる。
Ukida let out an exasperated sigh when he heard that.
やれやれ。幻覚でも見たのではないのかね。
本当なんだ。本当にここに死体が。頭から血も流して、どう見ても死んでいる彼女が。
血？どこにも血痕なんかないわよ。
Watase was rendered speechless at that. He just confirmed with his own eyes that there were indeed no body or bloodstains anywhere to be found.
あるはずの死体がないというのなら、そもそも君の認識自体がおかしかったのではないのかね。
何？
君は記憶障害を起こすほど頭を強く打っている。脳に。
Watase felt shivers down his spine. For Ukida's theory made total sense. That did mean that the auditory hallucinations he'd been hearing for the past few hours, and his constant headaches and nausea, were the result of brain damage? To make matters worse, he'd also been suffering from radiation damage on top of that. Has my brain been damaged past the point of no return? Watase desperately tried to find another plausible explanation for everything, but I can't think of anything. In the first place, he didn't have any clue why he had amnesia to begin with, What had happened before he lost his memories? Meaning that thinking about his condition wouldn't help him at all. Shit. If I could only remember what the situation just before I lost my memories was like. If only I could remember what happened a few hours ago, then I might be able to finally answer some of my questions. Like the truth behind my condition, and what's been happening in the facility today. It felt like he was totally lacking in the knowledge he needed to understand all that. And then, Ukita's voice interrupted his thoughts.
聞いているのかね、隊長さん。
Wadase gritted his teeth and mustered a response.
いや、ちょっと待ってくれ。やっぱりこんなの納得できん。
納得できないだと？
ユーリの死体に見えたが、彼女は生きていたのかもしれない。きっとあの後、息を吹き返し、どこかに行ってしまったんだ。
そんなことってあると思う？ほんの数分の間の出来事でしょ？
いいからみんなで手分けして探そう。森部と俺は地下1階を、先生たちは地下2階を頼む。
隊長が言うならもちろん従うけどさ。
こんなところで時間を割いていていいのかね？
それじゃせめて5分だけでも頼む。5分経ったらまたここに集まろう。
Though they were reluctant, Wadase managed to persuade everyone. Thus, they began the search for Yuri. But no matter how hard they searched, they couldn't find Yuri anywhere. The group reunited at the stairwell 5 minutes later.
いないね。
Wadase couldn't say anything in the face of everyone's stares.
明らかに時間の無駄だよ。どう考えても隊長さんの狂言、妄想、もしくは勘違いだ。
隊長さん、幽霊の正体見たり枯れ尾花という言葉もあるわ。必死でユーリさんを探すあまり、影か何かを見間違えたのよ、きっと。
Yeah, no, we literally walked over to her, scooped her up in our arms, and like held her close to our chests. I don't think that was just a shadow or something. Well, we had that little like glitch thing happen, but we also had that happen. So peep this, right? When we opened up the door, there was some kind of like glitch thing that happened. And then all of a sudden we were like, oh, there's somebody here. And that's when we turned around, saw the body, went through all that. And then obviously the scene is called Dreamlike, right? Okay, come on, this scroll thing is terrible. And then we even had the auditory hallucination, right? It's like, get a hold of yourself already. How long are you going to space out for? Hurry and get back to the others. Huh. He couldn't press his own belief on them any longer. Either way, it's true that we wasted time. Wadase reluctantly withheld his opinion and changed gears.
ものは考えようだ。俺の勘違いとかならむしろその方がいい。彼女が死んでないってことだからな。
そうとも。彼女はどこかで生きているさ。
そうね。その通りよ。
Wadase said that to convince himself, but something was clearly happening here. Wadase continued talking as he felt that ominous premonition in his mind.
一旦脳科学実験室に戻ろう。
It's interesting that they said it was a premonition, I will say.
ええ、もう実験室を出てから1時間以上経つし。
うん、その方がいいだろう。
副隊長が待ってるかもしれないしね。
The group thus headed over towards the neuroscience laboratory. But Kazumi wasn't there. Instead, the group was greeted with a shocking sight.
なんだこれは。
It wasn't what they saw that was strange. It was what they didn't see that was strange.
AD が。
The AD they'd left in the neuroscience laboratory was all gone.
そんな。
I fucking knew it. I fucking knew it. Oh man, why the fuck would they ever think it's listen, dude, my first thing would be like, okay, let's carry the 80. Let's at least, like, we're going to carry a good amount of 80 with us. Or at the very least, we're going to hide it. Right? Like, oh, man. All they found were torn scraps of paper scattered on the floor. Wadase picked up one of them. It read, to Mr. Tenkawa. They were the ripped up remnants of Anna's note.
どうして
Everyone was frozen in shock.
まずいよ。手元にある AD はそれぞれ一人
Bruh.
だけ。AD がなきゃ私たちはどうしたって被爆しちゃう。
Wadase couldn't speak. He quickly checked his Procon to find that it read 5,899 MSV. The radiation levels throughout the entire facility were probably all past the first danger standard by this point. Cosme had indeed managed to survive for an hour on only half of an 80 before, but she also mentioned that she hadn't been feeling well during that time. Plus, the radiation levels were completely different then. If things didn't turn for the better soon, it was most likely only a matter of time before they exceeded the second danger standard. And the last time I was in a contaminated zone, He'd suffered from intense headaches and nausea only a few minutes being in there. He'd shuddered at the thought of that happening to everyone else.
くそどうしてこんなことに
Bizarre events just kept happening one after the other. Wadase gritted his teeth. Ukida then spoke up.
どうしてだって？決まってるさ。AD を持ち去った人がいるんだ。
そうだよ。そして犯人はきっと私たちの中にいる。
Come on, we're not doing that. Jun scanned the others with a sharp look in her eye.
バカお前何言ってんだ俺たちを疑うのか
私だって別に疑いたいわけじゃないよ。でもそれ以外考えられないじゃない。
ってさっきからお前ちょっと堅論すぎるぞもう少し考えて喋るべき
隊長こそちゃんと考えてよ。頭ごなしに否定するんじゃなくて。
Jun's harsh shouting shut Wadase right up. She then continued talking with a subdued voice.
このラボにいるのは私たちと夏彦くんたちだけなんだよ。でも私には夏彦くんたちが無断で AD を持ち去ったとは思えないよ。あの子たちがいい子なのは知ってるし、置き手紙も破られてんじゃん。だったら私たちの中に犯人がいるって考えるのが当然でしょ。ねえ、単独行動をとっていたのは誰？みんなアリバイ証明できる？
Wadase was dumbfounded at the fierce look Jun was giving them all. Just then, Anna sighed and spoke.
確かに私たちにはアリバイがないわね。
先生
隊長さんも私も浮田さんも一人で行動していた時間帯がある。でもね、アリバイがないのはあなたも同じよ、森部さん。
Anna gave Jun a pointed glare.
え？立花さんと別れてから私たちの前に姿を現すまであなたが何をしていたか証明できる人はいないでしょ。
何言ってんの？副隊長がリタイアしたから私は捜索を急がなきゃって思って必死に。
だからそれを証明できないでしょ。そもそも怪しいと叫ぶ人こそ
Among Us. This is literally like Among Us. Look, we're in medbay. Somebody watch me scan.
はあ？何それ？まさか私が AD を隠したとでも言いたいの？
その可能性も否めないわ。
ふざけんな！
Chill! Damn, Jun! Anna trembled in the face of Jun's mad roar.
そんなことして私に何のメリットがあるってのさ。私はレスキュー隊員なんだよ。給料安いわ、仕事はきついわ。その上世間の脚光も大して浴びることもないこの仕事をさ、なんで私らがやってると思う？人を助けたいからだよ。出場かかるたびに地獄に飛び込んで何度も死ぬような目にあって、それでも人の命救いたくてこの仕事やってんだ。その私にシリウスの森部純に向かってあんたが AD を隠したんでしょだ？バカにするのも大概にしろってんだよ。
Jun gave Anna the deadliest glare she could, then started panting heavily once she finished talking. Tears were pouring down her cheeks. Anna was absolutely speechless. She looked away in regret.
ごめんなさい。
Oh, come on, don't back down on this, Enna. You are so in the right. If Jun's gonna be throwing around accusations, then it's only fair that the accusations get thrown back at her.
そうだよ。いつだってそうあろうと思ってんだよ。
Just as Jun said that in a shaky voice.
だが、レスキュー隊の全員がそう思っているかどうかはわからんがね。
Ukida interjected.
おっさん。
職業倫理と個人的思想は必ずしも一致しない。職責より個人の主義主張を貫くことを。
Oh fuck, this isn't good, man. This isn't fucking good, bro. Oh shit, and this is all on the students as well. Oh fuck. That ain't good. Hold up. Okay, let's keep in mind here, right? I didn't want to say this. I didn't say this too directly last time, but when we were looking through and this is so off topic, when we were looking through the books in the reference room, and we were looking at the test subjects were labeled subject MA, subject YU, and subject NA. Could that not stand for subject MA being Mashiro, subject YU being Yui, subject NA being Natsuhiko? Now, of course, I also theorized that subject YU could be Yuri as well, which I still think is totally possible. But I'm just throwing it out there, man. I'm just throwing it out there. Anyways, let's go back. I don't know why that's coming up.
それって浮田さん、裏切り者はシリウスの中にいるって言いたいの？
さーてね。
あんた先週私たちに救助されたばっかでしょ？よくそんな口が聞けるね。
いやいや、待ちたまえ。僕が疑っているのは。
Wadase couldn't take it anymore and shouted as another quarrel began to break out.
もういい。やめろみんな。もう仲間同士のいがみ合いを見るのはたくさんだ。どうしてもっと仲間を信じようとしないんだ。置き手紙が破られてたからなんだ。要救助者が AD を持って行っただけかもしれないだろ。何の確証もないのに仲間を疑うなんて、そんなのは間違ってる。
ではどうやって確証を得ようというのかね。
監視ルームだ。
監視ルーム？
森部、立花は監視ルームで休みながらカメラチェックしてるんだろ。じゃあおそらくカメラを通じて施設内の様子を見ているはず。
しかし監視カメラはほとんど壊れていたがね。
ほとんどだろ。ってことは全部じゃない。だったら確かめてみる価値はあるはずだ。ここで罵り合ってるよりその方がずっとマシだ。
Jun, Anna, and Ukida were all silent. Eventually, Jun spoke up in a soft voice. Oops, my bad. Let's go on to the surveillance room, guys.
でも、もし犯人がこの中にいるって分かったら、その時は。
Jun surveyed the others with a fierce glare.
いや、そんなことはありえない。仲間を信じるための証拠を見つけに行くんだ。
The group then hurried over to the surveillance room. An inconvenient... Oh, God. Oh, we've been going for 2 hours already. Ooh, do I leave you guys on a cliffhanger? Well, I mean, you're gonna know already by just looking at the timestamp. Yeah, we're gonna leave you on a cliffhanger. That is where we are stopping it. So much shit has just happened. We have had memories come back, theories made, realizations thrown about. So much mystery about the lab, about the students, about our companions, about who to trust and who not to trust. If there's some a mysterious other person that we don't know about running around here trying to kill us. People are trying to kill us now that I mention it. Yuri might be dead. We might just be losing our mind. What are the hallucinations going on about? Are they actually just hallucinations? I mean, oh my god, just, I feel like shit just hit the fan, dude. So, we're gonna find out, well, we're gonna see if we can find out who took the AD. I think it's gonna be, I personally am of the opinion that it is a third party, aside from us and the students. But we're gonna find out who took it. and we're gonna have to, I guess, just up our guard. Well, I mean, clearly we're gonna have to fucking track it back down. So we're gonna have to track that back down, eventually find out what the fuck happened to Yuri, if she's actually dead or not. Then the students are up to something. They're clearly doing something. So there you go. Wow. So much fucking drama going on right now in this story. Well, that's going to be it for this time. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure to leave a like on the video and tell me in the comments below what you'd like to see me play next. If you enjoyed this video or any other videos or series on my channel, then I highly recommend that you hit the subscribe button and turn on post notifications so you'll be notified when a new one of the videos comes out. Oh my god, what happened? But yeah, that's gonna be it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed. Not a lot to say because I think everything that I'm gonna have to say is gonna come in the next episode. Bye.